My name is Oren Safdie. I was born in Montreal, Quebec in 1965, and I'm a playwright and screenwriter. In my fantasies of fantasies, I think in terms of work-wise, it would be to be in a position where I can call my own shots all the time. There's kind of an idea that playwrights write something or screenwriters write something and then it's put on, but there's a lot of sales that go on and you're either the buyer or the seller. I think right now I'm in the position where I'm right in the middle. It would be nice to be in a position where I'm the seller. I think my greatest fear is losing somebody who's close to me. It's not so much about death for myself, but I tend to become very attached to people. My grandmother is very important to me. She's 89 and she's kind of my best friend in some ways. And she inspires me because she really has a great outlook on life. She never lets anything get her down. She still goes to the office every day. If she has an ache or pain, you'll never hear about it. And it just makes you put up your chin when you have any kind of complaints, and I always hear her voice in the back of my head somewhere. That just makes me plow on when things don't look so great. I think part of the problem is that it's very hard for me to let go of things. If I didn't have that, I wonder if I would be so driven to write some of the stories that I do. I really can't stand arrogance. Anyone who feels, I think, better or higher than anyone else is really, in a sense, showing us their own insecurities. I don't think I'm excessive about anything right now, and I don't know if I was always like that, but if I had to be excessive, it would be that I'm becoming moderate in many of my ways. I do find fame to be something that is very transparent, and people who I usually meet who are quite famous, and the value we place on fame very rarely lives up to it. I kind of feel a bit of like a Bedouin in the past few years because I've been moving from New York to Los Angeles to Toronto now, to Montreal. I've lived in Israel, and I kind of get off on moving around to different places and really experiencing places, not just visiting them, but actually living and working in those places. So there's a part of me that would love to live in a different city every 3 to 5 years. But I guess for now, LA is not such a bad place. I think I'd like to be able to speak a lot of different languages. It's always been something that I feel prohibited by. Not being completely fluent in the language kept a barrier up. And I just feel that if I spoke many languages, it would open up so many doors for me. I think writing a new play, starting it to begin with, is the hardest thing. I find that that is the thing that challenges me most in life. That and marriage, which is something I never anticipated doing, but I did, and it's a constant challenge, especially when I'm in a field and my wife is in a field where she's actually acting in one of my plays now, where we are separated by distances, and even though we're in the same field, it makes you really have to work at it. Well, if starting the play was something that was my biggest challenge, finishing it is definitely the most satisfying. And also, the first read-through that you hear the actors reading your play for the first time is a definite high. This past year, having a play run off-Broadway, feels like my greatest achievement because I've put so much effort into it. To have a play running 5 months in New York off-Broadway, it was an amazing feeling and felt like I had achieved something I had set out for, even though I don't really set goals. Failing at something that you've really put your heart at, but more so having nobody to commiserate with. And I think the opposite could probably be true of succeeding in something you've really strived for in your life, but not having anyone to share it with. I think my friends would define that as stubborn, but they would also say I'm quite loyal. My favorite word is yes, as opposed to no. My favorite sound is the sound of a tennis ball hitting the sweet spot in a tennis racket. My favorite food is cherries and seafood pasta, not together. I think I would come back as a pine tree. My name, Oren, in Hebrew means pine tree. And because I've grown up knowing that fact, I tend to look at them in a different way. And when I see them, I almost feel akin to them. So I'd like to think maybe that the name wasn't so much of an accident, and there's characteristics about the tree and the pine tree, which is a little prickly, but at the same time it's just feels very relaxed there, that I would come back as. Some of the words I live by, I tend to see life as a race, and if it is a race, I like to think of it as a marathon rather than a sprint, even though, life can end tomorrow. But I at least try and plan my life to know that what I do today will affect what happens 10 years from now, 20 years from now.